Hi ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing today? I hope all is well. Today in our class we are going to finally be covering multiple step equations. Multiple step equations are going to have multiple steps. Multiple meaning a bunch or a variety of different steps. We covered earlier in the week two-step equations. Our two-step equations had two steps in the equation. Here was the first step. Here was the second step. Here's the first step. Here's the second step, and the same thing. First step, second step, first step, second step. Two-step equations have two steps. Multiple step equations will have a variety of steps. It can be 5, 4, 3. Usually it's either 5, 4, or 3 steps to get the answer. Okay? Remember, the whole purpose of doing these multiple step equations is to figure out what is the value of the variable that is in each equation. Okay? So, for example, for number 1, we're trying to figure out what is the value of this W. Even though the W is in two different spots, it is the same number. Okay? Multiple step equations is going to incorporate our two-step equations that we did already. It's going to incorporate our distributive property, which we have covered already also, and it's going to include our combining like terms. It's all three of those skills into one major problem. Okay? So go ahead and practice these. If you think you watched the video and you know how to do it already, go ahead and practice all of them. Go ahead and try them out, and then pause the video, do the work, come back, and then check your answer. If you are not sure how to do any of them, that's fine. Go ahead and watch along, get a pencil, paper, and try them as we work together through them. Okay? So here we go. Number 1, the first problem is 5W minus 3, 2W plus 4. If you notice, when I am writing the problem, I am not squishing the problem all together. Okay? Allow there to be room between each of them. I know some of you write beautifully and you're able to spread it out. There's other of you that are squishing all of your numbers together and you're writing very, it's not legible. So please make sure that you are writing so you can read your own writing and that it is spread out. Okay? For this problem, we are trying to figure out what is the value of W. You can kind of think of it like an egg. Okay? You know those Easter eggs that you all go searching for still, hopefully, and during Easter. This egg is going to have the value of the W. Okay? So our whole goal is to figure out what is that value for W. All right? So we will come back to that value in a little while. So here we go. Every time I start out, I like to go ahead and draw a line down the center so I know there's two sides of the equation. Remember, there is a left side and a right side to the equation. The first thing that I need to look for is distributive property. So in distributive property, if we turn back, distributive property is when there's a parenthesis, you can see, and then we had to distribute the term out to each of the terms inside the parentheses. Okay? We first look for distributive property because distributive property is multiplication, whereas combining like terms is addition and subtraction. Okay? You could see the difference between both of them is one of them, there's no parentheses anywhere, it's just adding and subtracting signs. And in distributive property, there are parentheses which tell us that we are multiplying. Okay? In the order of operations, multiplication comes before adding and subtracting. So that's why when we go to our multiple step equations, the first thing that we're going to look for is distributive property. Okay, so we're going to look on the left hand side and we need to figure out where our distributive property is. Now, I use these so hopefully you can see better, but if you actually look right here in the problem, you can see that there is your distributive property. Okay? So all you need to do is solve this portion first. And we're going to do it exactly like we did before. You get this number and you multiply it to each of the terms that are inside the parenthesis. Okay? So a negative 3 times 2w is a negative 6w. And then a negative 3 times a positive 4 is a negative 12. Okay? So in your problem, you have to first see if there is distributive property. And if there is, then you do that part first. All right? Once you've done that part, you can go ahead and bring everything else down that is in the problem. So all I'm going to do is bring down that 5w, and then I'm going to bring down the equal sign and the 20. All right? So the first thing that we did was distributive property. I'm just going to write DP. Okay? The first thing we did was distributive property, which is multiplication. Is we multiply. All right? Next, after distributive property, we are going to do combining like terms. We have to see if there's any combining like terms. All right, so we're here. We look here. If you notice, these both have W's, so we can combine those together. So I'm going to combine my 5W with my negative 6W. Okay, when I combine those together, I'm going to get a negative 1W. And then all I'm going to do is bring down the rest. So if you notice, this is the same skills that you already learned. You just learned how to do distributive property. You learned it in the 7th grade. We reviewed it already. You learned how to do combine like terms. Here's our combine like terms. And if you notice, we're back at a two-step equation. This is a two-step equation that you already learned. So this is our two-step equation. Okay? So we're here back at our two-step equation. With our two-step equation, these two are BFFs. Remember, they're best friends, so we're not going to worry about them yet. We're going to first go ahead and get rid of this one here. So a minus 12, the opposite of a negative, is a positive. This is subtraction also. The opposite of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 12 to both sides. What I do to one side, I go ahead and do to the other side. From here, you do your math. You get your negative 1W. You go ahead and this gives you 0 equals, this here is going to give you 42. All right? From here, this, when we combine them together, okay, anything plus 0 is always just the original, so it's going to be a negative 1W equals 42. Now, we need to get W by itself, okay? Or it has to be a positive 1W. It cannot be a negative 1W. We just want one positive W. So now, what is happening between these two? What operation? Remember, there's 4 operations in math. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. What operation is happening between these two? Very good, it's multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplication? It is division. So we're going to divide by the best friend. There's 2 best friends right here. This is the negative 1, and this is the W. We're going to separate them, okay? So in order to separate them, we have to divide. If you forget that this line here means division, you can write the division sign instead of writing the fraction line, okay? What I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side. So this is a negative 1. And does anybody happen to see the mistake that is made already? There is a mistake. Can anybody catch it? Aha, yes, it's right here. Okay, I was kind of looking back up at my work and I was noticing, what's going on right now? This should be a 32. Okay, that should be a 32. I was looking right here at my addition before I continued on. I was just quickly checking my work. And that's where I saw that this should be a 32. All right, so a negative 1 divided by a negative 1 is actually W equals a 32 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 32. Okay, I'm going to extend this line down. And you can see that the first thing we did was distributive property. Distributive property multiplied. Here we combined our like terms. And then all we did was our two-step equations. So if you know how to do each of these, then all we're doing now is just putting it together to figure out what is this value here, which is a W. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's see. This is the value of W. We did all our work. This is the mystery number, right? So let's see if we were correct. We got W equals negative 32. Let's open it. See, bingo. W equals negative 32. So what that means is if you put negative 32 back into the equation, right? If you plug them in right there and then you did all your math, this would equal 20. Okay? So this is our first mystery number, negative 32. Excellent. Good job. All right. Next one, number 2. Turn the page. Number 2, we have 4 times 3v minus 1 minus 2 equals 6. Okay, in this case, we are trying to look for the value of v. So in here is our mystery number. Okay, in here is the value of v. Let's see if we can figure it out. Okay, so here we go. First, I'm going to draw my line down the center. And I always start with distributive property first. Okay, that's the first thing I'm always going to look for. So I'm always first going to look for distributive property. That's step 1. Okay, this is step 1. So as I look, and I'm looking on the left side of my equation, I can see that, remember, distributive property has parentheses. This part right here is our distributive property. You can see that that is distributive property. So I'm going to multiply this 4 to each of the values inside the parentheses. Okay? So we have 4 times a 3v, which is going to give us a 12v, and then 4 times a negative 1, which is going to give you a negative 4. Okay, so the first thing that you need to do is you need to look at your equation and see if you find a distributive property. And the hint that it's distributive property is that it has these parentheses. All right, so once I'm done with my distributive property, I now bring everything else down. So I have my negative 2 equals 6. All right. From here, next is, what was step number 2? Yes, combine like terms. Okay, we're going to combine like terms. So when we look at our problem, what do we see that we can combine? We can we combine these two together? No. Why not? Very good. This one has a V, the 12 has a V, and the 4 does not have a V. The negative 4 does not have a V, so therefore you cannot combine those together. So all we're going to combine together are our numbers. Okay? So we have negative 4 and a negative 2 is going to give us a negative 6. And then I just drop everything else down. So I drop my 12v down, equals, and then the 6. All right. Step 3 is we're now at a 2-step equation. Okay, we are at a 2-step equation. Oops, my barely fit 2-step equation. And now we're going to start looking to see where are the best friends. Here are the best friends right here. So that means we're going to work with this one here. Okay, so anytime we do 2-step equations, we always usually move the numbers first. Move the numbers. In order to move the numbers, we do the inverse. Okay, the inverse is the opposite. So what is the opposite of subtracting? The opposite of subtracting is addition. So this is, we're going to add 6, and then you're going to add 6. So 12v, we get 12v. This becomes plus 0 equals 12. Now 12v plus 0 is just going to be 12v. equals 12. Now remember, the goal is to get v by itself. We need to figure out what is that mystery number inside here. And in order to do that, we have to go ahead and get this by itself. Okay, right now the 12 is next to that value, so we need to get it by itself. So what operation is happening between both of them? Very good, it's multiplication. What is the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I divide 12 by both sides. So v is going to equal, because 12 divided by 12 is 1. We can write the 1 right here if you would like. You do not have to, but this would be a 1. And we all remember we needed to be a positive 1, and it is a positive 1. And then 12, again on this side, divided by 12 is 1. So the value, in order to make all of this left side to equal 6, the value that the v needs to be is a 1. All right, let's see. Is it a 1? Ta-da! Yes, we are correct. It is a 1. Beautiful. Good job, you guys. So far, so good. All right, let's go ahead and check the next one. Number 3. All right, number 3. So, number 3 is going to be negative 5x minus 2 plus 3x equals 15. Okay? And we're solving for the value of x this time. All right, we're solving for that value of x. And here is our value. Oops. This is the value of x. And if you notice, x is in 2 different locations. So that means there's an x right here and there's an x right here. But it is the same number. Okay, it's not 2 different eggs with 2 different numbers. It is the exact same number that is being used. Okay, so we need to figure out what is that number that is in here. What is that mystery number inside the egg? Okay, so let's figure it out. All right, so first, we always look for distributive property. Okay, so first let's look for distributive property. Now, is there distributive property? When we do distributive property, we are always looking for those parentheses to tell us that it's distributive property. Remember, if we turn back right over here, here's our distributive property. We always had parentheses. Is there any parentheses here? No, there's none. So therefore, this problem does not have any distributive property. Okay, once we check for distributive property, now I'm going to check for combining like terms. Can I combine terms on this side? Yes, I can. Which terms can I combine? Very good. Why can I combine these? Very good, because they both have an x in them. I can't combine the negative 2 because there is no x next to this negative 2. So I only can combine these two together. Okay, so a negative 5x and a positive 3x is going to give you a negative 2x, and then I'm just going to bring down that negative 2 to the 15. Okay, next is my two-step equation. You can see it right here. There's only 2 steps. Two-step equation. Okay, from here, we're going to go ahead and start, and we're going to move the numbers. The first thing we're going to do is move the numbers. Okay, we're going to do the inverse. Here are our best friends. This is the one we are going to move, or actually we have to eliminate by doing the inverse. So the opposite of a subtraction is addition. What we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side. Remember, if you practiced these before, these should be much easier for you. If you did not practice, I suggest you go back and look at the videos so you can practice each skill individually. But this is our two-step equations. So from here, you're going to get a negative 2x. Right here, this becomes 0 equals 17. This, when we combine them together, anything plus 0 just becomes what we started with. So there is our work. Now, what happens between these two? What operation it is again? Very good, you guys. This is multiplication. Now, what is the inverse of multiplication? Division. And remember, you always divide by the number that is in front of the variable. Okay, so this whole thing, you're going to divide by that. All right, now we end up with x equals, can I reduce 17 over 2? Is there a number that goes into both of them evenly? No, there is not. So my answer is going to be 17 over negative 2. Okay, all right, let's see. Were we correct? Aha, yes. Negative 17 over 2. Good job, you guys. We are doing fabulous. Okay, let's put this back in. We're good. So far, so good. Okay, last one. Number 4. I hope I have room right here to squeeze it in there. All right, so here is our problem. 6 times negative 4 minus 7g equals 36. Okay, equals 36. Just make sure that's the same right here. Oh, no. Look, this says what? Minus 16. This should be a 2. Let me fix that real fast, you guys. See, Miss Palomino is human. She makes mistakes. I copied it wrong. All right, so let's fix this. Okay, so this should be a 2. And then this right over here should be a 16. Can you tell my whiteout thing is not working? Okay, there we go. So this should be a 2. And then this should be a negative 16. All right, there we go. I have no idea where I got those numbers from, you guys. All right. So let's start again. We start with our line. Okay, the first thing we look for is distributive property. Is there distributive property? Aha, yes there is. It's right here. You can tell by these parentheses. Okay, this is distributive property, so we're just going to go ahead and do basic distributive property. We're going to distribute this 6 to each of the terms inside. All right, so we get a negative 12. And then we get a negative 42g equals negative 16. So all I did was just bring this down, and this was my distributive property that is just right there. Okay? Now, can I do combine like terms? Is there anything on this left side that I can combine? I have negative 12 minus 42g. Is there anything that I can combine? No, there's not. So actually, there is not anything that I can combine. So I actually just skip that step. Okay, and then the last final step is going to be for us to do our two-step equation. Okay, so we're back to basics. All right, we're gonna look where the BFFs are. Here's the BFFs. It's the negative 42 and the G. All right, and then we go ahead and work, and we're only working on this left side, okay? So right now we are kind of just looking at this side and trying to simplify this left side of the equation, okay? That's why I do not end up working with this number and adding 16 to either side. That is why I'm only working on the left side and I'm simplifying this side. So that's why these two are best friends. So I need to go ahead and eliminate this negative 12. What is the opposite of minus or negative? A positive or a plus. Okay, so we're going to add 12 to both sides. What I do to the left side, I need to do to the right side. I end up with negative 42g equals, right here when I go ahead and do my math, I have a negative 16 and a positive 12. Be very careful with that. You're going to end up with a negative 4. All right, from here, this became 0. Remember, this becomes 0. Negative 42. This is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both of them by 42. And it's a negative 42 that I need to divide by because there's a negative sign in front of the 42. So I need to divide by the whole number that is in front of that variable. Okay, and we are trying to figure out the value of g. Okay, what is this value in here? We need to figure it out. Now, we are ending up with a fraction. You see this fraction here? Now, can I reduce this fraction? I can. Okay, so let me write it right here since I'm kind of rooming. There's no room. So I have a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I have 4 over 42. What number goes into 4 and into 42 evenly? Yes. 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. So G is going to equal 2 over 21. All right, let's see. What do we got? What do we got? What's the mystery number? Ta-da! 2 over 21. It matches. Okay? So the whole purpose of solving multiple step equation is for us to figure out what those missing numbers are. Okay, so each variable is kind of like having a mystery number inside that variable, and then your job is to try to figure out what is that value. And if you do your work correctly, the value that you get, okay, that value, if you plug it back in to the equation and you go back and do your math and you put this number back in here and you substitute it in and you do all your math, your answer should be negative 16. All right, ladies and gentlemen, next week I will be giving you a quiz, so you do have time still to practice. Every day I will give you a few problems just like this so you can practice. Please make sure you rewind the video. Please make sure that if you don't understand something, you go back and double check. If you feel like you're not understanding your distributive property, go back to last week and go over distributive property. If you feel like you're not understanding how to do your combining like terms, go back 2 weeks and learn how to do combining like terms. And then if you're not understanding this here, go ahead and go back to this week. I believe it's Tuesday, and you can go ahead and learn how to do these two-step equations. It is all of the concepts, all are now into just one problem. Okay, the key is, can you figure out where, for example, number 2, where is the distributive property at? Okay, if it doesn't have distributive property, then where is the combined like terms? And these are usually the steps. This is the pattern that constantly happens over and over and over for every single problem. You always start off with distributive property. Then after you do distributive property, you do your combined like terms. And then after you do your combined like terms, you go ahead and do your two-step equations, which is you usually move the numbers and you do the inverse, and then the last one is you isolate the variable, which means you get it all by itself, and then that's how you get your answer. All right. right? Now, if you have any questions and you're not understanding, please make sure that you email me if you have any questions. And remember, you have all the way till next week to really try to understand how to do all of these problems. And I will be putting more up every day. I'll give you about 2 or 3 or 4 so we can go over and review, so you can just practice and practice. All right, please make sure you're rewinding the video. Please make sure that you're asking questions. If you have somebody that's in your household that can help you, ask them for help. If not, call a friend. Okay, text a friend, hey, I don't understand how to do this. See if they can help you out. Okay, so this is a perfect opportunity for you to use resources to help you understand how to do it. And if nobody is there to help you, I am always here. So please email me so I can help you out. All right, this is the video for multiple step equations. Hopefully you understood the process and the steps that it takes to solve a multiple step equation. I will see you in our next video, and have a great day.